Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to go over 17 weird murder cases. So these are the top 17 that we have listed today. Let me just say some of them are pretty gnarly. So the first one is Dennis Nilsen. Okay, in the late 70s to early 80s, Nelson would pick up young men at London bars, bring them back to his home and kill them, then bathe and dress their bodies. He kept their bodies for weeks or months, talked to them, and even slept with them before burning or flushing the remains down the toilet. So if you could imagine. Now this next one, number 2, Catherine Knight. She's the first Australian woman to be given life imprisonment without parole. She killed her husband, skinned him, cooked him, and placed his body parts on plates with name cards next to them to feed him to their children, their adult children. That was in 2000. Number 3, the shoe fetish slayer. Jerry Brudos abducted and murdered 4 women. He claimed that women's shoes were his substitute for corn and used the severed foot of one of his victims to model heels in his home. Severed breasts being used as paperweights were also found by police. Like, what? Paperweights? You're gonna use my titty as a paperweight? How dare you? Some of these names I can't mention, so sorry, but Herbert Baumeister, I don't know. From the 80s until 1996, he'd go to gay bars to pick up men and lure them to his indoor pool to kill them. The pool area was set up very strangely with a bunch of mannequins that looked like they were enjoying a pool party. There he'd strangle them and dump their bodies along I-70 in Indiana. Okay. Number 5 is Elizabeth Bathory? I don't know. Also known as the Blood Countess. In the 1600s, she developed a taste for making young girls run naked in the snow, cutting off fingertips, literally bathing in virgin's blood to stay young, and performing naughty acts with some of the corpse. Ooh. Crazy. Number 6 is Nanny Doss, aka the Giggly Nanny. 4 of her 5 husbands died from poison she put in their food. Her first husband didn't die at her hands, but he said he left her because she scared him. Once caught, she seemed excited to spend life in prison and often smiled and giggled when describing her crimes. Strange, right? Crazy. Number 7 is Dennis Rader, aka the BTK killer. So he's well known. He would stalk and break into his victims' houses to wait for them before he killed them. He hid in homes and watched people go about their lives, sometimes even sleeping there. Oh my God. It's like my worst fear, guys, is like someone breaking in, someone watching me through my window, like, ugh. Number 8, the Alphabet Killer. So no one knows who killed these girls in upstate New York in the 1970s, whose first and last names each started with the same letter. Their bodies were also found in towns starting with same letters as their names. Carmen Collin in Churchville, Michelle Mainza in Macedon, and Wanda I don't know, in Webster. Hundreds of people have been questioned, but no one has been convicted. Wow. Number 9, Mona Fandey. Fandey tried to be a pop star, but her career didn't really take off, so she got into black magic and became a witch doctor. She was only convicted of killing a politician named Maslin Idris in 1993, but it's possible Fandey killed at least 7. She was given death penalty in 21. Number 10 is Donald Harvey, aka the Angel of Death. He worked as an ordinary orderly at a, oh, sorry, I don't know how to read. He worked as an orderly at Marymount Hospital in Kentucky in the 70s and 80s and claimed he killed 87 people. He'd take patients off life support or put cyanide or arsenic in their IV drips, saying later he believed he was putting them out of their misery. He was caught when cyanide was found in one of the bodies during an autopsy. 11. Lisa Montgomery. She constantly lied about being pregnant and having miscarriages in 2004. She befriended actually pregnant Bobby Jo Stinnett, showed up at her house, strangled her with a rope, cut her belly, and took her baby. Bobby Jo was only passed out, so she woke up and wrestled to get Lisa away from her, but Lisa then ended up killing her. How sad. Number 12, Axemen of New Orleans. So starting in May of 1918, a slew of murders occurred in Louisiana and Texas, many of them carried out with axes belonging to the victims. Police received a note on March 19, 1919, saying if people played jazz music loudly, their lives would be spared. That night, no one died. The attacks ended in October 1919, with the axeman was never identified. How scary. So what, people like played jazz music and their lives were spared? I would. Hell, I'd put that on blast. 13 is Robert Berdella, aka the Butcher of Kansas City. So he killed 6 men in the late 80s in Kansas City by torturing them and then stuffing their bodies into dog food bags. It gets weirder though. He kept detailed written records of everything he did to them and claimed that the 1965 film The Collector, about a lonely man who kidnaps a young art student so she'll be in love with him, inspired his killings. 14. John List. List murdered his wife, 3 kids, and mom in 1971, told everyone the family was going out of town for a family emergency, and disappeared. Weeks later, people got suspicious, and the bodies were discovered in the house along with a note from List saying he'd saved their souls. He was finally caught 15 to 20 years later, living under a different name. 15. The Papin sisters, so Christine and Leah Papin. They were French maids who went out of their way to work together whenever possible. In 1933, they beat the mother and daughter they'd been working with for 7 years to death. The mother's eyes were gouged out and hidden in her scarf. When found hours later, the sisters were naked in their bed together. What the? Number 16, Death of Candace Newmaker. So in 2000, adopted 10-year-old Candace was taken to intensive therapy to help cope with being apart from her biological parents. During a rebirthing session, she was wrapped in flannels to represent a womb and told to free herself. She screamed and vomited and couldn't escape while the therapist said, "You want to die." Okay, then. The session was transcribed up to the moment where she suffocated. 17 was and Carl Tanzler. Tanzler was caring for a patient when he became desperately obsessed with her. Even after death, years later, he took her body from its tomb and kept it at his house for 7 years. Anyways, so those are your 17 weirdest murder cases, and I would have to say, it delivered. I'm sorry, I'm looking at Tanzler's corpse that he took from her tomb, and the picture of it, you guys, scary. I love true crime and all that, but I don't understand it, and I think that's why it's so intriguing to all of us, is wanting to know like what drives these people to do this stuff. Like, I know that's what's intriguing to me. Like, I want to get inside their head, like, why would you do some of this? But anyways, those are your 17 weirdest murder cases. I hope you guys enjoy, so subscribe for more.